Hare Krishna, welcome to this episode of Bhagavad Gita. So today we will study chapter 12, text 15, remaining undisturbed in this world. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Bhagavad Gita chapter 12 text 15. This is part of the series of from 13th verse onwards until 20th verse, all the qualities in devotees that Krishna likes. Chapter 12, text 15. Yasmannodvijate loko lokannodvijate chayah harshamarsh bhayodvegair mukto yah sachame priyah. Yasmat, from whom, na, never, udvijate, are agitated, lokah, people, lokat, from people, na, never, udvijate, is disturbed, cha, also, yah, anyone who, harsha, from happiness, amarsha, distress, bhaya, fear, udvegaih, and anxiety, muktah, freed, yah, who, sah, anyone, cha, also, may, to me, priyah, very dear. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: He by whom no one is put into difficulty and who is not disturbed by anyone, who is equipoised in happiness and distress, fear and anxiety, is very dear to me. Now, this is the original 1972 version, slightly differently translated. He for whom no one is put into difficulty and who is not disturbed by anxiety. There it is mentioned, and who is not disturbed by anyone. Here it is mentioned by anxiety. who is steady in happiness and distress, is very dear to me. Now, lokat means from persons. Here, lokat is mentioned as persons. Lokah persons, lokat persons. Whereas there it is mentioned from the world. Lokah means the world or people in this world. Lokat means from persons. Actually, grammatically, from persons is the right thing because that's the grammatical. Lokat means from loka. And so the world does not cause him anxiety. Through the world or by the world, he is not put into anxiety. So either way, the meaning does not change much, but they change the thing to a little more accurate with the Sanskrit. So anyway, I just wanted to point out that difference. And here, equipoised. Here the word equipoised is used. Who is equipoised in happiness and distress, whereas there it is mentioned who is steady in happiness and distress. So there was no need to change that. It's understood steady, but they changed to equipoised. Okay, so purport. A few of a devotee's qualifications are further being described. No one is put into difficulty, anxiety, fearfulness, or dissatisfaction by such a devotee. Since a devotee is kind to everyone, he does not act in such a way as to put others into anxiety. At the same time, if others try to put a devotee into anxiety, he is not disturbed. It is by the grace of the Lord that he is so practiced that he is not disturbed by any outward disturbance. Actually, because the devotee is always engrossed in Krishna consciousness and engaged in devotional service, such material circumstances cannot move him. Generally, a materialistic person becomes very happy when there is something for his sense gratification in his body. But when he sees that others have something for their sense gratification and he has not, he is sorry and envious. When he is expecting some retaliation from an enemy, he is in a state of fear. And when he cannot successfully execute something, he becomes dejected. A devotee is always transcendental to all these disturbances. A devotee who is always transcendental to all these disturbances is very dear to Krishna. All right. So, important verse. How can we put others into difficulty? How are others put into difficulty? By the thoughts, by the words, and by deeds. Thoughts, usually they are in a latent stage and they're usually expressed as words or actions. And such words or actions may put others into difficulty. Udvega. So here, udvijate means is disturbed. Now, if you go to 17:15, अनुद्वेगकरं वाक्यं सत्यं प्रियहितं च यत् स्वाध्यायाभ्यसनं चैव वाङ्मयं तप उच्यते. Anudvegakaram, not agitating words. Anudvegakaram vakyam. So by the words, austerity of speech consists of speaking words that are truthful, pleasing, beneficial, and not agitating to others, and also in regularly reciting Vedic literature. Now, Satyam Bruyat, Priyam Bruyat. So, in the Niti Shastra, it is mentioned that one is advised to speak truth when it is pleasing. When it is not pleasing, then better not to speak the truth. Now, this is austerity of speech. It's important. But in the case of explaining the absolute truth. In the case of preaching, one has to speak the truth, irrespective of whether the other party would like it or not. And in such speaking, there may be some udvega, and such udvega or agitation is not desired by the devotee, but he may inflict upon others by preaching the truth. But it is better to err on the side of speaking the truth than on the side of um, being pleasing by not speaking the truth, especially when it comes to spiritual subject matters. Materially, yes, there is, this austerity of speech, which is speak pleasing words and beneficial words, and not agitating. But then preaching, if if preaching about Krishna agitates someone, we cannot not preach about Krishna. So, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada, many times they have said that in the matter of preaching, a devotee may transgress this rule because he knows the real mission of the Lord. And in the third chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it said, न बुद्धिभेदं जनयेद् अज्ञानां कर्मसंगिनां जोषयेत् सर्वकर्माणि विद्वान् युक्तः समाचरन्. See, buddhibhedam, disruption of intelligence. You see, he should cause na buddhibhedam janayet. He should not cause a disruption of the people of he should not cause a disruption of intelligence among the foolish attached people of this world. So, translation: so as not to disrupt the minds of ignorant men attached to the fruitive results of prescribed duties, a learned person should not induce them to stop work. Rather, by working in the spirit of devotion, he should engage them in all sorts of activities for the gradual development of Krishna consciousness. So here it is said that we should not disturb the people in general and just somehow or other encourage them to work in devotion. Now, similar thing is said, 329. प्रकृतेर्गुणसम्मूढाः सज्जन्ते गुणकर्मसु तान् कृत्स्नविदो मन्दान् कृत्स्नविन्न विचालयेत्. Bewildered by the modes of material nature, the ignorant fully engage themselves in material activities and become attached. But the wise should not unsettle them, although these duties are inferior due to the performer's lack of knowledge. So here, it is mentioned in the purport, Prabhupada mentions a very important point. Okay. Under the spell of such designations, social work, nationalism, and altruism are some of the activities for such materially designated persons. Under the spell of such designations, they're always busy in the material field. For them, spiritual realization is a myth, and so they're not interested. Those who are enlightened in spiritual life, however, should not try to agitate such materially engrossed persons. Better to prosecute one's own spiritual activities silently. Such bewildered persons may be engaged in such primary moral principles of life as non-violence and similar materially benevolent work. So you see, it is better to prosecute one's own spiritual activities silently. So we should not preach. Men who are ignorant cannot appreciate activities in Krishna consciousness, and therefore Lord Krishna advises us not to disturb them and simply waste valuable time. But the devotees of the Lord are more kind than the Lord because they understand the purpose of the Lord. Consequently, they undertake all kinds of risks even to the point of approaching ignorant men to try to engage them in the acts of Krishna consciousness, which are absolutely necessary for the human being. So, in the matter of Krishna consciousness, one can break this rule a bit to inject Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, this material world is hell bent on not submitting to Krishna. So, we have to introduce Krishna consciousness in an atheistic, asuric population and convert them into Sura from Asura. So, many people will not take it very nicely, but that's okay. Classic examples, Jagai Madhai, they hit Nityananda Prabhu when they were preaching. Nityananda Prabhu and Haridas, they were preaching. Jagai Madhai, they hit him. So, and Haridas Thakur was beaten in 22 marketplaces. So that's not something which is avoidable by devotees if you want to preach. And there are so many quotations in by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, how strongly, of course, by Prabhupada as well. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was especially very against, very much antagonistic to this conciliation. He wanted to be revolutionary and he wanted to stop the currents of cheating, Kaitava Dharma, Projhita. That Projhita is not going to be very smooth and smiley and, you know, hunky dory, lovey dovey. It won't be like that. So let's see another point. In 1867, Krishna says this. Idam tena tapaskaya na bhaktaya kadachana na cha shushrusha vacham na cha mam yobhyasuyati. Krishna says, this confidential knowledge may never be explained to those who are not austere or devoted or engaged in devotional service, nor to one who is envious of me. So Krishna said, don't explain this to these kind of people who are not austere, not devoted, not engaged in devotional service, or who are envious of Krishna. And ninth offense against the holy name is that we should not preach among the faithless people. So, although Krishna said this, now Prabhupada explains in the 1871 purport regarding, he comments on this point. So, idam te natapaskaya nacho, what is that? What is the previous verse? Idam te natapaskaya na bhaktaya kadachana na chachu shrushave vacham. So, but the opposite is this. Shraddhavan anasuyascha shrunuyad apiyo naraha sopi muktah shubhallokan prapnuyat punyakarmanam. And one who listens with faith and without envy becomes free from sinful reaction and attains to the planets where the pious dwell. Now, so here in the purport, he comments on the 67th verse. In the 67th verse of this chapter, the Lord explicitly forbade the Gita's being spoken to those who are envious of the Lord. In other words, Bhagavad Gita is for the devotees only. But it so happens that sometimes the devotee of the Lord will hold open class, and in that class, all the students are not expected to be devotees. Why do such persons hold open class? It is explained here that although everyone is not a devotee, still there are many men who are not envious of Krishna. They have faith in him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If such persons hear from a bona fide devotee about the Lord, the result is that they become at once free from all sinful reactions and after that attain to the planetary system where all righteous persons are situated. Therefore, simply by hearing Bhagavad Gita, even a person who does not try to be a pure devotee attains the result of righteous activities. Thus, a pure devotee of the Lord gives everyone a chance to become free from all sinful reactions and to become a devotee of the Lord. So you see, this is the reason. So this is the reason why a devotee may speak, even though it may agitate the minds of those who are envious, those who are not very pious. Idam te na tapaskaya, na bhaktaya kadachana. Same thing is there. Durapahi alpatapasah, seva vaikunthavartmasu, yatropagiyate nityam devadevo janardana. Persons whose austerity is meager, same, idam te na tapaskaya. Persons whose austerity is meager can hardly obtain the service of the pure devotees, progressing on the path back to the kingdom of Godhead, the Vaikunthas. Pure devotees engage 100% in glorifying the Supreme Lord, who is the Lord of all the demigods and the controller of all living entities. So, what happens if they come into contact with devotees? Because those who are having, see the relation here, Krishna is saying those who don't have tapasya, bhakti, and humility, don't preach to them. But here it is said, those who have very little tapasya, they cannot go to the devotees because the devotees don't go to them usually. But extraordinary devotees, they may go, patra patra, vichara nahi sthana sthan, jai jaha paye taha kore premadan. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's associates, his devotees, are so merciful that they will go anywhere, even to the unqualified, and try to elevate them to Krishna consciousness. Now, but usually, this is what happens. Whose austerity is meager can hardly obtain. So, but what happens if there is austerity? I mean, if they practice some kind of yajna dana tapa karma pavanani manishinam, yajno dana tapaschaiva pavanani manishinam. Natyajyam karyam tat. It is said that one should not give up yajna dana and tapa. Even if one is not a devotee, and even if he is a devotee, he should not give up. For those who are not devotees, when they do ordinary yajna dana tapa, eventually such persons may come in contact with devotees and then their purification starts. And if those who are devotees, they should engage even more in pure yajna dana tapa. Yajna sankirtan yajna. Dana prema dana. Kore prema dana. Patra patra vichar nahi sthana. Namo mahavadanyaya Krishna prema pradayate. So they have to, in fact, the word sampradaya means samyak pradaya. Pradaya means to give. Samyak means complete, full, in fullness. The Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayine. So, Krishna Sambandha Vijnana has to be given to everyone. And Harinam has to be given to everyone. Krishna Prasadam needs to be given to everyone without any discrimination. So, these things, giving is Sampradaya. So, that is Dana. Pathan, Yajan, Yajan, Dana, Pratigraha. And Tapaha. Tapaha, for the devotees, it is Yat karoshi yad asnasi yad juhoshi dadasi yat tapasyasi kaunteya tat kurushva madarpanam. So whatever tapasya they do it for Krishna. Like Ekadashi, we fast, and then festival like Janmashtami, we fast. Not only this fasting, but also the bigger tapasya, which is to execute the order of the spiritual master. Now Ekadashi and all of this is fine. I mean, normal people can do. But a serious disciple must take all tapasya in executing the order of the spiritual master, like Krishna did for his guru Sandipani Muni. He asked him to go to collect firewood. They went into the forest and it was a great storm. That's one example, fulfilling the order of the spiritual master. Classic example, Prabhupada. He went across the sea, huge, massive journey he took, and so much tapasya, not just that journey, the years leading up to that journey, how much tapasya he underwent. Alone, he was doing everything. Not easy. But he did it. That is tapasya. He ate only once. No, so many times he did not have money, but whatever money he got, he spent in purchasing paper and then writing magazines and distributing those magazines himself, collecting funds for the magazine. So he was doing in whatever way he could, he was doing. And then he was always trying for bigger and bigger things. He was dreaming very big, although his means were very small. And he toiled really hard. Unimaginable amount of tapasya he did to execute the order of the spiritual master and the journey itself to the west. And once he went there, did not know whether to turn left or right. Boston, 1 month visa. What are you going to do? 69 years of age. Who will employ you? Why? How will you get any pass? Permanent residency? How you will get anything? What are you going to do in 1 month? He went. He did not have a concrete plan. Forget about concrete. Any plan, just like very little. Okay, somebody sponsored. That person is not a devotee. And in fact, he was living in that house. There was meat there in the fridge. But somehow or other, they became fortunate that they hosted a pure devotee. Or he made them fortunate by living in a house. In fact, at one point, when he opened the fridge, he saw meat there. He was crying. Prabhupada was crying. He said, to execute your order, my Guru Maharaj, I have come to this land of the Mlechas. Now I am in a house where meat is kept. I mean, it's not easy. And cold weather. Prabhupada never faced that kind of a cold. New York. He went to New York. What kind of cold in the winter? Alone. What prospects are there? So all that is tapasya, is it not? Like Arjuna, he fought the war. That is tapasya. You may say, okay, what is tapasya? I mean, he was a good fighter. Even then, it is tapasya. It is easy to fight a war. Any one small inattention and then you will be killed. Not just that, he has to shoot his own elders, his own relatives. Is that not tapasya? He has to endure the loss of his own son, Abhimanyu, and then later the 5 sons of Draupadi, among which one of his is his son. The Pandavas went through a lot, and then the others also were killed, all because of somebody else's ambition. All of that is tapasya for Krishna. So tapasya does not only mean, of course, to encourage the beginners, we will say, what is there tapasya? You don't have to eat outside food, just eat prasadam and fast on some days. And fasting is good for your health. And yeah, this is a good thing for a beginner maybe to say. But honestly, we should have missionary spirit. We should dedicate our life to execute the order of the spiritual master. Vyavasayatmaka buddhir ekeha kurunandana. Ekeha, one pointed, single pointed attention in executing the order. So what happens if one has tapasya and one gets the service of the pure devotees? Then what happens? शुश्रूषोः श्रद्दधानस्य वासुदेवकथारुचिः स्यान्महत्सेवया विप्राः पुण्यतीर्थनिषेवणात्. O twice born sages, by serving those devotees who are completely freed from all vice, great service is done. By such service, one gains affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. So that's what happens when we have tapasya. So, in other words, a devotee is ready to agitate others to spread the message of Krishna consciousness. And probably I will read some passages from the Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur biography. But before we go there, so he has to speak and sometimes even agitate. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has a very, very different spin on this. He said that is essential in this age of Kali. Just like if I want to get more views on Instagram, I have to understand the algorithm. Okay, what kind of thing works and what kind of thumbnail and what kind of hook in the first 5 seconds or 3 seconds or whatever. The ever reducing attention span of the Manda Sumanda Matayo population of the Kali Yuga. So unless we understand those algorithms, we cannot get more views. So, similarly, the algorithm of Kali Yuga is quarrel. So, if we present Krishna consciousness in a combative way means not exactly with a frown on the face, but to counteract the false philosophies that are being peddled all around the world in different communities and different kinds of false philosophies that are being peddled. So we have to completely smash them with Krishna consciousness philosophy. Impersonalism we have to smash. Nirvishesha Shunyavadi, Paschatya Deshatarine. So the Western world and the Eastern world, everything is full of now impersonalism and voidism and materialism, consumerism. So we have to talk against that. We have to establish how, or so-called scientificism. So what is a scientism? Um, so in a lot of, and they say humanism, the faith in the ability of humans as a race to improve humanity, improve the world's condition. That is humanism. Um, God is systematically being removed from the um, psyche of the people. So we have to contest that. We have to contest that, and we have to defeat every other philosophy. And that is going to be combative, and it's fine. It's going to be agitating. But a preacher should know that is a very sacred duty of a preacher. Agitation. This is not for the sake of agitation. This we have to just speak the truth, and truth is agitating to the liar. Truth is agitating to the one who wants to get cheated. It is said that um, truth is treason in an empire of lies. Truth is treason in an empire of lies. Yeah, in an empire of lies, this world, material world, is built upon lies. First lie, you're the body. That's what Krishna attacks in the Bhagavad Gita. So our philosophy is by nature against the grain of materialism. So in an empire of lies, truth feels like treason. Oh, what is this? You're not working? Oh, you're a crazy people. You're escapists. All kinds of words are hurled at devotees who are just trying to do the right thing. So they will encourage otherwise useless qualities. So there's a verse like that. The attribute for no. What is the word? They think it is all good qualities. They attribute value to bad qualities as if they were good. I think regarding money, ascribe. I don't know if the word ascribe is there. Yes, this is the one. 11, 23, 18 and 19. Okay, you see, Steyam himsanritam dambha kamah krodhah smayo madah bhedo vairam avishwasah samspardha vyasanani cha ete panchadashanartha hyarthamula mata nirnam tasmadanartham arthakyam. See, arthakyam. Anartham arthakyam shreyorthi duratasthyajet. Theft, violence, speaking lies, duplicity, lust, anger, perplexity, pride, quarreling, enmity, faithlessness, envy, and the dangers caused by women, gambling, and intoxication are the 15 undesirable qualities that contaminate men because of greed for wealth. Undesirable qualities that contaminate men because of greed for wealth. Although these qualities are undesirable, men falsely ascribe value to them. This is the point. And when the people actually have good qualities, like the devotees, they are condemned and they ascribe value to these nonsense qualities. One desiring to achieve the real benefit of life should therefore remain aloof from undesirable material wealth. Undesirable material wealth. So, falsely ascribing value. Um, so, unfortunately, we are having to deal with a population that is not very conducive for spiritual life, and there is some agitation required. Of course, for the population, for the masses, Harinam. But how long can you just give Harinam? You see how Prabhupada actually established his movement. Yes, he did kirtan among the masses, but also he spoke. So he says, when we do the chanting, there is a conducive atmosphere that is created, which makes it easier or conducive for them to absorb the philosophy after that. Because if we just do Harinam and then it's not going to be entertainment, they should not understand it as just entertainment. They should also know they should hear the topics of Krishna. And then prasadam. So in this way, kirtan, prasadam will be the attractive features. Philosophy will be attractive, but also can be agitating because it will kind of um, rub against their it will how to say challenge their preconceived notions about life. It's going to completely change. It's a revolution. These words will create a revolution in the hearts of the misdirected population. What is that? 1511. Viplava. Viplava means revolution. तद्वाग्विसर्गो जनताघ विप्लवो यस्मिन् प्रतिश्लोकमबद्धवत्यपि नामान्यनन्तस्य यशोऽङ्कितानि यत् शृण्वन्ति गायन्ति गृह्णन्ति साधवः. Viplavah, revolutionary. So what is revolutionary? On the other hand, that literature which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, forms, pastimes, etc. of the unlimited Supreme Lord is a different creation, full of transcendental words directed toward bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of this world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. So, I mean, let's be honest. When we do book distribution on the streets, are the people looking for those books and waiting and running to us to get those books? No. Nobody's interested. So, you can say they're kind of faithless. Some of them may be innocent, but there are many faithless people we distribute books to. There is no kirtan, there is no chanting of the holy name that happened. Maybe there is, sometimes it is possible in some countries it's not. When we do the book distribution, the book is there going straight into his hands and he's reading straight philosophy, not just chanting the holy name. Right? So this revolutionary means revolutionary words. You see, transcendental words directed toward bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of this world's misdirected civilization. Does that not sound like agitation? They don't have to be agitating all the time. Some people are actually looking for it. They're searching for something like this. Sometimes they actually don't agree. What is this? Too much. But some things I like. Okay, let me just read on. It can happen that way. So it's going to agitate. It has to agitate. If preaching is not to convince those who are not convinced, what is preaching then? If preaching is only to people who are agreeing, that is not preaching. He's already agreeing. What preaching you want to do? For those who are not agreeing, to get them to agree, that is preaching. So that means it will agitate their well settled viewpoints about life. So, in other words, agitation for Krishna's sake is all right. Here, when it is said, Yasman nodvijate loko, he does not agitate people for his own sense gratification. For his own sense gratification, he does not disturb others. He is a perfect gentleman, he does not disturb anyone. But for Krishna's sake, he is ready to be called all ill names and called all sorts of bad names, and he's ready to go to even jail, because sometimes we just chant on the street and people say, oh, this is nuisance, so we go jail. So he is willing to be insulted and titikshava karunika, what is that, defamed, everything. Okay, that's actually 5:30. Okay, I will just read the English. It's a long prose. Rishabhdev began to tour through cities, villages, mines, countrysides, valleys, gardens, military camps, cow pens, the homes of cowherd men, transient hotels, hills, forests, and hermitages. Wherever he traveled, all bad elements surrounded him, just as flies surround the body of an elephant coming from a forest. He was always being threatened, beaten, urinated upon, and spat upon. Sometimes people threw stones, stool, and dust at him, and sometimes people passed foul air before him. Thus, people called him many bad names and gave him a great deal of trouble, but he did not care about this, for he understood that the body is simply meant for such an end. He was situated on the spiritual platform, and being in his spiritual glory, he did not care for all these material insults. In other words, he completely understood that matter and spirit are separate, and he had no bodily conception. Thus, without being angry at anyone, he walked through the whole world alone. You see that? This is the level of tolerance that is required in order for us to preach. The more we preach, the more we develop tolerance. Without tolerance, we cannot preach. Titikshavaha karunika. So, karuna, one can be merciful to others when he is happy himself. That's the thing. To preach, in order for us to preach, we have to lokan nodvijate chayaha. That's what today's verse is. He is not disturbed by the world. This is the classic example of Rishabh. This is the tolerance one should have. He's not disturbed. And this is also explained 11, 22, 57 or 59. 59. Hmm, 58, 59, you see. क्षिप्तो वमानितो सद्भिः प्रलब्धो सूयितोऽथवा ताडितः सन्निरुद्धो वा वृत्त्या वा परिहापितः निष्ठ्युतो मूत्रितो वाग्न्यैर्बहुधैवं प्रकम्पितः श्रेयस्कामः कृच्छ्रगत आत्मनात्मानमुद्धरेत्. Even though neglected, insulted, ridiculed, or envied by bad men, or even though repeatedly agitated by being beaten, tied up, or deprived of one's occupation, spat upon, or polluted with urine by ignorant people, one who desires the highest goal of life and should, in spite of all these difficulties, use his intelligence to keep himself safe on the spiritual platform. Use his intelligence to keep himself safe on the spiritual platform. We can't change them, but we can take it as a workshop to train our intelligence and our mind. And that's why the greatest solution, what is the greatest solution Krishna gave for all problems? Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkhadah agamapayano nityastam stitikshasva bharata. The non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O scion of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. Tolerate them. He says, firstly, he says, you are not the body. Next thing he says, tolerate. What does that mean? So if I am not the body, then I have to apply it. I have to, science means you have theory and you have practicals, right? So if I'm not the body, then okay, the body will receive praise, body will receive insult, body will receive infamy, fame, heat, cold, everything, convenience, inconvenience. How much did I understand that I'm not the body? Practical lessons. So Krishna will give us practical lessons. For sure. For sure, Krishna will give us practical lessons in all of this. Things that we learn in Bhagavad Gita. Because it's easy to say that, oh, we have to be, equipoised in happiness and distress. Or we should not be agitated by the world. Okay? I'll give you agitation, Krishna says. I'll give you agitation. Have you learned the lesson? So, Krishna will test us in multiple levels, not just one, multiple levels. And how to pass those tests? Trinadapi sunichena tarorapi sahishnuna. It comes down to that. Yasman nodvijate loko. How can that happen? When we manada and amani and and kirtaniya sadahari. Yasman nodvijate. Kirtaniya can sometimes udvija. But then lokan nodvijate chayaha. How can that happen? By the world, one is not disturbed. Tolerance, titikshava, or tarorapi sahishnuna. Harshamarsh bhayodvegair mukto yah sachame priya. So, harsha amarsha, happiness and distress, equipoised. How can that happen? Tolerance again. Bhaya udvegair muktaha. He is aloof from fear and agitation. So basically, the principle of this is tolerance, humility, tolerance. Why did Krishna say neck? Is it this one? No. Oh, this is Harer Nama. Okay, never mind. Trinad api. 1731. Trinadapi sunishena tarorapi sahishna amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahare. Okay. Then he says, for a devotee, ऊर्ध्व बाहु करे कहाँ सुनो सर्वलोक नाम सूत्रे गांठी पर कंठे ए श्लोक. Raising my hands, I declare, everyone please hear me. String this verse on the thread of the holy name and wear it on your neck for continuous remembrance. So, you see how he's saying this Trinadapi Sunichena verse is so important that it has to be worn on the neck on the thread of the holy name. That means we have to chant the holy name in a very humble disposition and tolerant disposition. Kirtaniya Sadahari can happen only when Trinadapi Sunichena, Tarorapi Sahishnuna, Amani and Manadena. Then Kirtaniya Sadahari can happen. So, this is so important for devotees. If you see in the Shikshashtaka, Shikshashtaka is actually a progression of one's devotion. So, firstly, there is Krishna Sambandha Vijnana. So Cheto Darpanam Marjanam Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam, all this verse. So in the first verse of Shikshashtaka, we understand the glories of the Krishna's holy name. So that is Sambandha. We understand, oh, Krishna's holy name is so powerful. It's not different from Krishna. Oh, this is Krishna, Krishna's name. Okay, this is Krishna Sambandha Vijnana. We understand the glories. Okay, now I want to take to it. But my mind is so Durdevam Idrisham Ihajani na Anuragaha. There's no Anuraga. There's no taste for me. There's no taste in me for this holy name. My misfortune. How to get the taste? Kirtaniya Sadahare. How to happen? That is the third Shikshashtaka verse. And then in that is this Trinadapi Sunichena, humbler than the grass, more tolerant than the tree, Tarorapi Saishana, Amanina, and Manadena, expecting no respect from others, and always giving respect to others. So these things if we do, then yes, we can always chant. And then we will come out of this. The fourth verse is what? Na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim kavitam va jagadisha kamaye. Mama janmani janmanishware bhavatad bhakti rahaitu tvayi. Then one will come to the point of ahaituki bhakti. Then one will get the asakti, ruchi and everything. Fifth, sixth, seventh, all bhava, and finally prema and complete surrender, self-surrender. So that is progression. But we cannot go further if we don't have Trinadapi Sunichena. Because until second verse is still possible. Okay, we have heard about Sambandha Gyan, about the glories of Sankirtan, Prabhupada's books are there. Okay, we have learned. I have no taste. That's where I'm stuck. The way to get taste, Trinadapi Sunichena. But if I don't cultivate that, there's just no way. There is no way that I can do Kirtaniya Sadahare. So, the whole point about today's session is, about today's topic is this Trinadapi Sunichena verse. And coming back to the point of now not hurting others, not agitating others. But for Krishna's service, one has to be ready to agitate others. And he should not compromise. Let me just bring that. I think in this Revolutionary Preacher book, I think maybe I can take it in a PDF as well, I think. Just give me a moment here. Let me bring it out. We will read some passages of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Okay, just give me 1-2 minutes here. I will just bring out this thing. I did not plan for this. We have actually done this chapter before, the Revolutionary Preacher of Truth. But let me just share that screen. Okay, here we have, it's not so big, but I hope it's still visible. So this is the Revolutionary Preacher of Truth. We have studied this in depth. But let me actually read this quote as well from the first, from the kind of dedication page here. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, If to carry out the command of the Vaishnava Guru, I have to be arrogant or brutish or suffer eternal perdition, I am prepared to welcome such eternal damnation and even sign a contract to that effect. I will not listen to the words of malicious person in lieu of the command of Sri Gurudeva. I will dissipate with indomitable courage and conviction the currents of thought of the rest of the world, relying on the strength derived from the lotus feet of Sri Gurudeva. I confess to this arrogance. Does that sound like he's not going to agitate people? So this transcendental arrogance is actual humility. Why? And that's what he said in this chapter. Real humility means to submit to the absolute truth, to preach his message without any compromise. If I compromise something from Krishna's message, I'm not being 100% humble to Krishna. I'm thinking that I can say it better than Krishna can. I can sugarcoat it better so that people will actually accept. No. I'm hiding the truth. That's nonsense. Okay. And okay, I think I wanted to go to back to the Veda base, but okay, let me go there again because I wanted to show you one verse, which I think you know, but this is an important verse as well. Now you see, 11:26-26. ततो दुःसङ्गमुत्सृज्य सत्सु सज्जेत बुद्धिमान् सन्त एवास्य छिन्दन्ति मनोव्यासङ्गमुक्तिभिः. An intelligent person should therefore reject all bad association and instead take up the association of saintly devotees whose words cut off the excessive attachment of one's mind. I mean, the Gaurkishore Babaji's life, that verse, the chapter of sharp words. Let me see if I have that. No, I don't have it here exactly. I have it in my, but not on this machine here. But anyway, in that sharp words of a sadhu, I think it's here, It is probably here. Sharp words of a sadhu. Yes, it is. We have it here. Good. Okay, this is bigger text and nice. So this, let's actually read this. The sharp words of the sadhu. Yasman nodvijate loko. But here we have sharp words of the sadhu. Srila Gaurakishore Das Babaji Maharaj always gave beneficial instructions to persons who approached him with faith and humility, no matter what their spiritual status. On one such occasion, a seeker went to Babaji Maharaj to hear topics concerning the Supreme Lord, but he heard some harsh words from him instead. The seeker therefore resolved to never go near Babaji Maharaj again. After some time, however, having been stricken with a distressed and troubled mind, he suddenly returned to see Babaji Maharaj. Sri Babaji Maharaj, instantly realizing the reason for his depression, told him, "Oh, you have left the association of devotees where topics about Krishna are discussed, and now you are living in a secluded place and performing solitary worship of Krishna. When one hears the topics of the Supreme Lord in the company of devotees, then one becomes freed from Maya's net of illusion. But if one performs worship of the Lord in a secluded place, not in association with devotees, one becomes caught by the illusory energy. As a consequence, instead of topics about the Supreme Lord possessing the heart, mundane subject matters will occupy it instead." The seeker replied, "I thought it better to reside in a secluded place and perform my own individual worship than to become disturbed by hearing the sharp words of a sadhu. Srila Babaji Maharaj replied, please take note that those sadhus who speak sharp words to drive away the witch of the illusory energy are actually the only real devotees of Krishna and friends of the living entities. The conditioned living being experiences the distressful quarreling of his wife and close relatives and is rudely treated by them until death. Yet he never desires to leave their association. On the other hand, he absorbs himself in trying to appease and serve them. But when a devotee of the Lord, who is always desirous of the living entity's ultimate welfare, chides him just once with instructions meant to drive away Maya, then that conditioned entity immediately makes plans to leave the saintly person for his entire life. If you actually want to perform devotional service properly, then you must accept the harsh language of the sadhu as the medicine by which Maya can be given up. By this, one can obtain the necessary spiritual advancement to successfully chant the holy name. The bound souls are prepared to accept unlimited abuse from their family members, but not a single sharp word from the sadhu who attempts to cut their attachment to illusory existence. The materialistic wife and family members induce a man to work like an ass, and meanwhile deride him for not fulfilling all of their demands. Yet, while the family may legitimately plunder a man and denounce him bitterly for his shortcomings, the acquiescent victim is not in the least able to tolerate words which might awaken him to the reality of his situation. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur described the power of the sadhu in an essay called Search for Truth as follows. There is no doubt that the words of the sadhu possess the power of destroying the evil propensities of one's mind. The sadhus in this way benefit everyone who associates with them. There are many things which we do not disclose to the sadhu. The real sadhu makes us speak out what we keep concealed in our hearts. He then applies the knife. The very word sadhu has no meaning other than this. He stands in front of the block with the uplifted sacrificial knife in his hand. The sensuous desires of men are like goats. The sadhu stands there to kill those desires by the merciful stroke of the keen edge of the sacrificial knife in the form of unpleasant language. If the sadhu turns into my flatterer, then he does me harm. He becomes my enemy. If he gives us flattery, then we are led to the road that brings enjoyment but no real well-being. Without the association of devotees, one will almost certainly be overwhelmed by the illusory energy and his thoughts will naturally turn to gratifying his senses. So these are some of the instructions about sharp words. Now going back to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's okay. You see how he's how he's preaching, especially this quote. Okay, this everyone is eager. That quote. Everyone is eager for adoration by others, not for the absolute truth. He's talking about preachers. Okay, those who preach, they are eager for adoration by others, or they want others to appreciate them, adore them, not for the absolute truth. Those who make a show of being preachers do not disturb mankind. Ah, exactly the opposite of what Krishna has said. How can he say something like this, which is opposite to what Krishna has said? It is not opposite. As I said, Yasman Nodvijate Loko means he does not disturb the world for himself. For himself, he will not disturb. But for Krishna, he will disturb. Those who make a show of being preachers do not disturb mankind, but rather maintain everyone's present mentality while busily protecting their own existence. You see how he's pointing out the cheating in preaching. so-called preaching. They don't want to disturb mankind. Those who are show bottle preachers. But those who are real preachers will actually disturb mankind, he's saying. Therefore, there is no propagation of the truth, since one's popularity is not served by speaking or hearing the truth. How perfectly put. Oh, if I speak the truth, then I will not be popular. So let me not speak the truth because people will not like it. And let me talk something which they will like. And talk nonsense. Then, next quote. Pure items are rare. Okay, let me see. Pure items are rare and not easily attainable, and so are not much appreciated. Similarly, there is no respect for those who do not misguide people but are busy trying through Sankirtan and Harikatha to turn them toward the Lord. Try to understand the sentence. There is no respect. People will not respect those people who will not misguide. That means who will actually properly guide. People will not respect such people. They will respect people who misguide them, but they have no respect for those who do not misguide people. Those who are actually turning everybody to Krishna, oh, he's an offender. He's a fanatic. All kind of words. At present, it is fashionable to be cheated by those by those who in the name of dharma misguide people. Real devotees do not speak to satisfy their audiences. You see how against this is about Yasman Nodvijate Loko? Only because for Krishna's service. And not for the reason not to just agitate people. That's not the motive. The agenda is not to agitate people. The agenda is to remove their illusion so that they can see the reality. And sometimes the exorcist, to remove the ghost out of the person, may have to shout at the person. Looking at the person who's haunted, he will shout at him, harsh words. But he's not actually shouting at him, he's shouting at the ghost who's haunting him. So similarly, when a devotee may use harsh language, it is to remove that Maya who's haunting that devotee or that person. It can be a junior devotee or it can be an outsider, whatever. If when the truth is spoken and when it is unpleasant, and that is because the devotee actually tries to chase away the Maya that is haunting like a ghost this person. Because পিশাচি পাইলে যেন মতিচ্ছন্ন হয় মায়াগ্রস্ত জীবের হয় সেই ভাব উদয়. For those who are under Maya, their mind is just like Pishachi Paile, just like being haunted by a ghost. So in the we are exorcists. So we want to remove the ghost that is haunting, the Maya ghost. So there will be some harsh words spoken. Actually, they're not harsh. For the ghost, it is harsh. And because we're now ghostly haunted, we may feel harsh. But for the devotee, oh, it is very pleasing. Very pleasing. Why is actually okay, let's understand a little bit. Why are the devotees' words harsh? Why do they seem harsh when they're supposed to just preach about Krishna? And why, if they're just speaking the truth, then why is it harsh? Because now we are we are attached to the body. Oh, I don't know what happened. Just suddenly went blacked out. My screen completely went away. I hope you are still here. You can still hear. Let me see if the audio is coming through. Hare Krishna. So, is the audio coming through well? Yes, it is. Okay, I think now it's all right. Okay, so where were we? Hmm. Why do we feel harsh? Because we are now attached to the body, and because we identify ourselves with the body, and when we say that you're not the body, or like for example, what kind of topics are deemed as harsh? For example, family life, quotations against family life. Oh, family life is so full of misery and all of this. This will, that's so harsh. Or something which hits our ego, like these statements. Um, Sometimes we think we're nicely engaged in Krishna's service by preaching, but then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur came up with this quote where he's saying, "Oh, those who are make a show of preachers do not disturb mankind. Rather, maintain everyone's present mentality while busily protecting their own existence." Um, they want to be known as a good preacher, but they actually don't. They don't want to preach the real thing, which will drastically change that person's consciousness and becomes focused on Krishna. And that extrication from material attachment sometimes is painful. But for the devotee who is not attached, because this is actually pertaining, is the truth concerning the soul, for him it is very pleasurable. But for the person who is attached, it is very painful. So that's why it seems harsh. When we're attached either to our body, to our mind, to our intelligence, when we're attached to these things, when that attachment is like hit, that's when we will feel this problem, this agitation. So anyway, coming back to the quote here, um, real devotees do not speak to satisfy their audiences. They do not cheat people. Rather, pure devotees reveal the defects of cheaters who love to compromise. This is another cause for agitation, because now I may follow some bogus guru. For example, some preacher comes and tells me, "Oh, your guru is not a proper guru. He is a cheater. You are following this Alibaba, whatever, cheating." I'll feel offended. That's harsh. But for a devotee who's realized about this, for him that is pleasurable. Yes, he's actually doing the right thing. So, for example, when there is operation, there is cutting. There's cutting of the skin. There is but that is for curing a certain problem. Maybe taking out a tumor or open heart surgery or whatever. But it has to be cut open. There is a knife that is used to cut, but it is for the good of that person. Um, but that cut will hurt. But eventually, when it is all um, properly healed, then he can enjoy life. So it is like that. Now, let's read on. Okay. Pure devotees reveal the defects of cheaters who love to compromise. Only fortunate persons learn to be cautious after hearing the words of saints. So when we hear words from devotees, the fortunate people, they remain cautious and try to understand, take the lesson there. Those who are not fortunate, they will find nothing of value and they will rather curse or condemn that devotee who's trying to help them. Although the words of genuine devotees may appear to contradict our present taste and experience, nonetheless, they are most auspicious for us. So, hence, a major focus of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's preaching was to expose cheating in all forms. Okay, so another quote. This is another one. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur considered that his responsibility as a sadhu was to slash others' misconstructions. That doesn't sound like he's not going to agitate, he's going to super agitate everybody. Although people who lead serene lives of study and prayer but do not preach may be regarded as saintly, they cannot be compared to devotees who go out to confront all opposing elements and fight for Krishna. And even among preachers, many prefer to adopt a soft line. Now, those who are sitting in the Himalayas, or somewhere aloof from the civilization and then doing their tapasya, okay, they're saintly, people will respect them, but their lives are not going to change much. But the devotee who actually lives in the city and tries to preach to people, he is more higher. But even among preachers, like that Manushanam Sahasreshu Kaschit Yatati Siddhe, Yatatam api Siddhanam Kaschin Vettimam Tattvataha. Like that, this is even among preachers, which is already a rare thing. Those who even preach the correct philosophy. Now, there are so many wrong preachers, and even those who preach correct philosophy may, you see, this is what happens. Even among preachers, many prefer to adopt a soft line, averting conflict by not disturbing others' false egos. Sadhus were expected to be mild and non judgmental, avoiding causing annoyance to others and promoting concord by recognizing all opinions as equally tenable. But Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati deemed such liberalism another form of deception, a self serving acceptance born of fear of retribution. I'm fearful of being retributed by the public, and therefore I don't want to disturb them. In other words, refraining from pointing out others' misdoings lest oneself become subject to assessment. Because if I speak strongly, then I will also be judged according to that standard. So I want some leeway in my own. I want to be a little lax in my own practice, and therefore I don't preach the fullest degree of strictness of Krishna consciousness, so that because if I say we have to be really strict in Krishna consciousness, then people will judge me. Oh, he's saying he would be strict, but he's not strict. So, in order to protect my sense gratification, I may not preach strictly, so that if they see me sense gratifying, they will not think anything wrong. So I will not be judged by them. This is a cheating that can go on. We have to come out of all of this. He parodied the he parodied the hypocrisy inherent in such mutual social acquiescence by saying, "Main bhi chup, tum bhi chup. I'll be quiet, you be quiet." Then this whole chapter, I'm telling you, you must read this. Then you see another pseudo latitudinarianism, chit-jada samanvayavad, trying to conflate material with spiritual, is like the endeavor to inoculate gold and stone. How can Sat and Asat, devotee and non-devotee, pious and sinful, literate and illiterate, demigod and supreme lord, chaste and unchaste, dharma and adharma, light and darkness, constitutional and conditional, bhakti and abhakti be homologous? How can they be the same? They cannot be. So how can we have to differentiate. Differentiating that means it is a sign of knowledge. If I cannot distinguish what is right and what is wrong, then I'm ignorant. So knowledge involves separation of these two things, and that will agitate people. Then there is this this chapter is full of such quotes. I actually cannot. In fact, he said this. Okay, this is important. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur appreciated daring disciples who took risks in preaching and did not hedge or compromise. He referred to conciliators, that means those who do not preach strongly. He referred to conciliators as good for nothings, or in Bengali, Shnader Gobar, bull's dung, or bullshit. Shnader Gobar. Those who cannot daringly preach, even preachers, devotees, who cannot daringly preach, who cannot take risks in preaching, who cannot stop compromising or hedging, Shnader Gobar, bullshit. He calls them bullshit. a disparaging term meaning useless person. He cautioned his disciples that a flatterer can neither be guru nor a preacher. Don't speak to please the Janata, but to please Janardhan. So he's saying those who do not agitate others, they are not preachers, they're bullshit. Krishna is saying a devotee will never disturb others, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is saying those who do not disturb others, those who do not agitate people by preaching, they're bullshit. Hmm. You see, do not associate with so-called sadhus who, by not chastising anyone, do not act for others' welfare. When they chastise someone, they act for their welfare. By associating with sadhus, the heart should become purified from sinful propensities. The present role of sadhus acting for others' mundane happiness can render no well-being whatsoever. Aggressive grace. Pashunam lagudo yatha. Okay, so here is the one. Very important quote. Putana. This quotation is from the article Putana. The positive method by itself is not the most effective method of propaganda. It means preaching about Krishna is not the most effective method of propaganda. In a controversial age like the present, like the Kali Yuga, it rides on controversy. Kali means quarrel. So controversy is the very algorithm of Kali Yuga. So positive method, oh Krishna, let's talk about Krishna, how powerful is his name. Okay, good. You'll get 100 views. This rascal is not a guru, he is a cheater. 4 million views. Algorithm of Kali Yuga. So the positive method by itself is not the most effective method of propaganda in a controversial age like the present. The negative method, which seeks to differentiate the truth from non-truth in all its forms, is even better calculated to convey the directly inconceivable significance of the absolute. Negative method is better. Agitating people is better, in other words. Negative method means what? Pointing out the faults and taking the risk of agitating the entire population. It's going to be revolutionary. This Viplava, Janatagha Viplava. It's revolutionary. These words are revolutionary. And revolutions are not very easily accepted. No, because it goes against the established thought patterns of the world. So it will take time for them to adjust to the new normal. So in that there will be agitation. So is even better calculated to convey the directly inconceivable significance of the absolute. It is a necessity which cannot be conscientiously avoided by the dedicated preacher of the truth if he wants to be a loyal servant of Godhead. It's mandatory, in other words, necessity. For a dedicated preacher, we cannot avoid this thing. We cannot avoid using the negative method. We cannot avoid agitation. The method is sure to create an atmosphere of controversy in which it is quite easy to lose one's balance of judgment. But the ways of the deluding energy are so intricate that unless their mischievous nature is fully exposed, it is not possible for the soul in the conditioned state to avoid the snares spread by the enchantress Maya for encompassing the ruin of her only two willing victims. Encompassing the ruin, that means completely wrapping the soul in ruin. Maya's job is that. So, it is not possible for the soul in the conditioned state to avoid these traps or snares spread by the enchantress for encompassing the ruin of her only two willing victims. We are too willing to be victimized by Maya. We're already very willing to be victimized by Maya. So, to, it is said that it is easier to cheat than to convince somebody that he's cheated. It is easier to cheat him than to convince he's cheated. So, to bring out the truth, it is very difficult. Difficult because there will be agitation in him. He will not accept our act of saving him. He will think we are disturbing him. When I'm willingly being victimized, why are you disturbing me? That's how he's talking basically. So, it is not possible for the soul in the conditioned state to avoid the snares spread by the enchantress for encompassing the ruin of her only two willing victims. Unless the mischievous nature is fully exposed, mischievous nature of the deluding energy Maya. They cannot see it. It is the duty which shall be sacred to all who have been enabled to attain even a distant glimpse of the Absolute. So, what is he saying? It is a sacred duty of even the neophyte devotees, who are the beginners of in Krishna consciousness. Those who have a distant glimpse of the Absolute. They are not very close to the Absolute yet. They are not pure devotees. They are not second class even third class. If they want to advance, they should consider it their sacred duty to root out, to expose the non-truth, the untruth from the truth. That means agitation. Only to help them, not to cause violence, nothing. We should be careful in how we apply this principle though. It's not that we simply agitate everyone and cause violence everywhere. No. We need to know how to apply it properly. But we should apply it. So in this way, there are so many, all these quotations are so powerful. But all of these, there's a theme that one, the sadhu will agitate the people. You see, he maintained that the Vaishnava's aggression is required to counter enemies of truth. The loyal servant of the absolute truth is required to be the active proponent, not passive opponent, active opponent. It means he goes out to attack, not that he defends against any attack of the outsiders. No. He goes out to attack them. They are minding their business. We go and attack them. Active opponent of all violent enemies of the truth, because they are practicing violence. What is violence? What is their violence? Because they're not preaching Krishna consciousness and letting the soul suffer, and then giving them some hodgepodge nonsense in the name of religion, or in the name of science, in the name of enlightenment, in the name of progress, technological advancement, this and that. This is all cheating. These are all violence, because the soul is being ripped of its birthright of Krishna consciousness and the way to lasting peace. So, is required to be the active opponent of all violent enemies of the truth. It is his imperative duty to protest against the violence of non-theists in uncompromising terms and take all consequence of such protest. Even if it's death, he will take it, but he will be uncompromising. He is to give up his own life if he is not in a position to oppose the enemy of Vishnu in an effective manner and cannot also avoid their society. If he is in their society, he has to, if he enters their society, he has to preach. 10:44:10, Srimad Bhagavatam, same point. And if he possesses the power, it is his imperative duty to use it against violence. One who does not perform these imperative duties commits a grave offense against the truth. The theist or the devotee is by no means enjoined by the scriptures to be a non-violent, passive spectator of the violent acts of aggressive non-theists against Vishnu and his devotees. We are not supposed to be non-violent, passive spectators of violence. Then we will be complicit in the violence committed. We have to be violent against the violence. Violent does not mean physical violence. sharp rhetoric with laced completely with truth. Okay, but we should expose it straightforward in a straightforward manner. Hmm. This okay, this is very important. Okay, because we're talking about Trinadapi Sunichena. This is very important. Now, this is not the meaning of the teaching of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya, by which the devotee is required to be humbler than a blade of grass and more tolerant than the tree. To be a non-violent passive spectator of violence is not the meaning of Trinadapi Sunichena and Tarorapi Sahishnuna. These qualities, humility and tolerance, are to be exercised in upholding and not deserting the cause of the truth. Humility and tolerance should be exercised in upholding the truth, not for deserting the cause of the truth or giving up the cause of the truth. You see, even Bhaktivinoda Thakur, although Bhaktivinoda Thakur wasn't as forceful as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, but he was forceful in the sense he exposed the faults of Apasampradayas. He spoke, straight philosophy, but he was not as cutting as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He was dealing with a different, in a different era and different people. He was making them understand the glory of Vaishnavism actually. And then, but you see, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is not against such heavy preaching. He deemed it that now is the time is ripe, and he blessed Bhaktisiddhanta with that fearless voice. You see, he said, "You will be undefeated everywhere in presenting Vaishnava Siddhanta. If in propagating the straightforward, unbiased truth, the entire anti-devotional, misguided, self-interested community unites to attack you, still no one will be able to muzzle your fearless voice. Never desist from preaching the truth." Do you think now Bhaktivinoda Thakur is a conciliator? Absolutely not. But he prepared the ground for Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur to take it now to the maximum extent. And that's what he did. Saraswati Thakur was more concerned with preciseness than politeness. He spoke what people needed to hear rather than to nourish their perverted desires, and never employed euphemisms. Euphemism means uh, using a better sounding word than a not so good term. For example, instead of saying in Singapore, instead of saying bus driver, they call them bus captain. Captain sounds more polished, more upper class, and that's euphemism. It makes it sound better. Nothing really changed. So, in polished words, just praising someone, although, and especially in this kind of religion, in the name of religion, so in the field of religion, preciseness than politeness. He never employed euphemism or other devices that might have softened his message and made it more palatable. All these quotes, I mean, we can go on and on. Okay, so let's read that since we have come into this. A chanter of Hari Kirtan is necessarily the uncompromising enemy of worldliness and hypocrisy. It is his constant function to dispel all misconceptions by preaching the truth in its most unambiguous form without any consideration of person, place, or time. The form to be adopted is that which is least likely to be misunderstood. Important point. Don't leave anything for them. Okay, like for example, nowadays some preachers are doing this. Oh, meditation is so important. it starts off your day in a good. Okay, talk about what meditation. No, don't just leave it to the audience to figure out. Okay, my meditation is this, your meditation is that. Everybody have their own meaning of meditation. No, no, most unambiguous manner. Least likely to be misunderstood. In that way, we should tell. Only chanting Harer Nam, Harer Nam, Harer Namaiva Kevalam. Only meditation is chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Nothing else. Nothing else is. Nothing else works in this Kali Yuga. We have to tell like that. That is the meditation. Don't talk about meditation just vaguely. No, no, don't do that. Don't say divinity and all of that. No, no, say Krishna. Say Krishna if you have the guts to say Krishna. So, people like to, simply use words by being vague, and so that maximum people will agree to it. We don't want that. We want truth to be spoken in the most unambiguous form, least likely to be misunderstood. So, reading on, it is his bounden duty to clearly and frankly oppose any person who tries to deceive and harm himself and others by misrepresenting the truth, whether due to malice or genuine misunderstanding. This will be possible if the chanter of Kirtan is always prepared to submit to being trodden upon by thoughtless people. If such discomfort will enable him to benefit his persecutors by chanting of the truth in the most unambiguous manner. This is the best definition of Trinadapi Sunichena. He's saying that we should preach the truth in such a way that we should be prepared to be trampled by the audience for speaking the truth. That is Trinadapi Sunichena. Only if we have that, then Kirtaniya Sadahar, we will go on, we will never be discouraged in our Kirtan. If we are ready to become Trinadapi Sunichena for Krishna. Am I prepared to become the dust or the grass for Krishna? If he is unwilling or afraid of considerations of self-respect or personal discomfort to chant Kirtan under all circumstances, he is unfit to be a preacher of the absolute truth. Read that again. If he is unwilling or afraid of considerations of self-respect or personal discomfort to chant Kirtan under all circumstances, he is unfit to be a preacher of the absolute truth. Humility implies perfect submission to the truth and no sympathy for untruth. Don't have this submission to untruth. If somebody is untruth, oh, I have to submit to that. No, no, no. Why? No sympathy for untruth. Don't allow it. Even if the other person does not like you for that, doesn't matter. Those who entertain any partiality for untruth are unfit to chant Hari Kirtan. Any clinging to untruth is opposed to the principle of humility born of absolute submission to the truth. If I cling to some untruth, never mind, it's okay. Then I'm not absolutely submitting to the truth. I'm allowing untruth to be, it's okay. No, it's not okay. So, reading on, those who perpetually serve the truth with all their faculties and who have no hankering for the trivialities of this world are necessarily always free from malice born of competing worldliness. Thus, they are fit to admonish those who are actively engaged in harming themselves and others by opposing or misrepresenting the truth for attaining rewards in the shape of a perpetuation of the state of misery and ignorance. His sentence structure is the best. It's like so complex, not easy to grasp in the first read. But, those who really follow, they are fit to admonish those who are actively engaged in harming themselves and others by opposing or misrepresenting the truth for attaining rewards in the shape of a perpetuation of the state of misery and ignorance. They may get fame and everything, but their misery and ignorance will perpetuate, and the audience misery and ignorance will perpetuate by that praise. What is the use of that? The method employed by the servant of the good preceptor or the bona fide spiritual master for preventing such misrepresentation of the truth is a part and parcel of the truth itself. Understand this. The method employed by the servant of the good preceptor for preventing such misrepresentation of the truth is a part and parcel of the truth itself. In other words, in the Bhagavatam, it is said, Dharma projhita kaitavotra paramo nirmatsranam. So, kaitava dharma is projhita, thrown out from the Bhagavatam. That very act of throwing out cheating religion is also part and parcel of the real religion. The active throwing out, not that, okay, it's cheating religion is thrown out. We are only discussing good religion, right, correct religion, unmotivated Krishna bhakti. No, no, no. We will address the cheating religion and actively throw it out. Projhita. That active throwing out of adharma is also dharma. Not that, okay, now adharma is gone, now remaining is dharma. No, no, no. Throwing out adharma is also dharma. In fact, it is actually dharma. It is real dharma. Otherwise, we're conflating everything, adharma and dharma. So, it may not always be pleasing to the diseased susceptibilities of deluded minds and may even be denounced by them as a malicious act with which they are only too familiar. But truthful words from the lips of a loyal and humble servant of Hari possess such beneficent power that all effort to suppress or obstruct those words serves merely to vindicate to impartial minds the necessity of complete submission to the absolute truth as the only cure of the disease of worldliness. The truth, what is that? Truthful words from a pure devotee, from a loyal devotee, humble servant of Hari, possess such beneficent power that all effort to suppress or obstruct those words serves merely to vindicate to impartial minds the necessity of complete submission to the absolute truth as the only cure of the disease of worldliness. So the more people, so what is saying? The more people put effort to suppress or obstruct the true preaching, that will actually vindicate or prove to impartial people who are looking at it from far that we should necessarily completely submit to the absolute truth as the only cure of the disease of worldliness. Because if we conciliate even a little bit, even if we allow even a little bit, oh, they will be happy. But then their happiness or their contentedness is the sign and symptom that they are not interested to surrender. They are interested to stay in the material world. And they're comfortable. Okay, you have spoken nicely. Why? Because I did not disturb your sense gratification with my words. That's why you're saying I'm nice, right? So if I'm saying sense gratification is bad and then we have to surrender to Krishna, and if people are getting agitated with that, that vindicates the necessity of complete submission to the absolute truth as the only cure of the disease of worldliness. Humility employed in the unambiguous service to the absolute truth is necessarily and qualitatively different from its perverted prototype practiced by cunning people for worldly gain. I may be humble to get some worldly gain, but that is completely different. It's what is that? It's necessarily and qualitatively different from its perverted prototype. Humility in unambiguous truth means no sympathy for untruth, only truth, no clinging to any part of untruth. The professors of pseudo humility have reason to fear the preaching of Hari's servant, one of whose duties is to expose the enormous possibility of mischief inherent in various forms of so-called spiritual conduct when they are prostituted for serving the untruth. Beautiful. Okay, we have gone through all of this in that lecture series that we did on this chapter. So Prabhupada said about Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he said, no compromise. Ramakrishna, avatars, yogis, everyone was enemy to Guru Maharaj. He never compromised. Some God brothers complained that this preaching was a chopping technique and it would not be successful. But we have seen that those who criticized fell down. This is another thing. I mean, this is full of these quotations. You may go and watch that class. You see, he's saying, When Bhagavan is merciful to me, he arranges unlimited persons to speak sour words in uncountable ways, simply to teach me tolerance. One who cannot learn to tolerate the cavils of the world is ineligible to chant Harinam. Cavil is the hammer, the judge who order, he will, there's a cavil. The cavils of the world. One who cannot tolerate the cavils of the world is ineligible to chant Harinam. So when unlimited person speaks our words in uncountable ways to me, Krishna is merciful to me. You see, he exhorted, that means he urged his disciples to follow the example of Sri Radha in not giving up service to Krishna despite inviting public scorn by such adamancy. And he put in perspective the difficulty and thanklessness of his task. Millions of materially motivated speakers will go to hell, but someday someone will realize the independent truth spoken forthrightly and be saved. So you see, in this way, he is saying, now, this part. Yes. So, you see, there's an important point that Madhvacharya makes, and I want to go back to cavil means to raise trivial, frivolous, or annoying objections. Oh, yes. It is different from the other one. Yes. So, all the objections that are put forward by the people. Okay, so going back, in the 11, come on. 11 to 47. Okay. Here in the purport, Madhvacharya comments Okay, so here you see, Sri Madhvacharya states, Archayam eva samsthitam Vishnum jnatva tad anyatra naiva janati yah puman. A Kanishtha Adhikari has no idea that the Supreme Lord has the power to exist outside a church or temple. Furthermore, being puffed up by his own ceremonial worship, Atmano Bhakti Darpataha, a Kanishtha Adhikari cannot imagine that anyone is more pious or religious than he, and is not even aware that other devotees are more advanced. Thus, he cannot understand the Madhyama or Uttama standard of devotional service, and sometimes, because of his false pride, he criticizes the more advanced devotees of the Lord. You see, this is the point. He cannot understand the Madhyama or Uttama standard of devotional service, and sometimes, because of his false pride, he criticizes the more advanced devotees of the Lord, neglects them, or simply has no understanding of their exalted position as preachers or completely self-realized souls. Now, he expands on this. Another symptom of the Kanishta Adhikari is that he is infatuated by the material qualifications of so-called great materialistic persons. Having a bodily concept of life himself, he is attracted by material opulence and thus minimizes the position of the Supreme Lord Vishnu. Such a Kanishta Adhikari, therefore, is disturbed if a second-class devotee criticizes the non-devotees of the Lord. So he will kind of, we should not agitate the world, we should not agitate. Kanishta Adhikari is disturbed if a second class devotee criticizes the non devotees of the Lord. In the name of compassion or kindness, a Kanishta Adhikari approves of the non devotional activities of such materialistic men. And he may not agitate them. But is he doing the right thing? Not at all. Completely wrong. Because the Kanishta Adhikari is ignorant of the higher realms of devotional service and the unlimited transcendental bliss of Krishna consciousness, he sees devotional service merely as the religious aspect of life, but thinks that life has many other enjoyable and worthwhile non devotional aspects. In other words, devotional bhakti is just a chutney in the thali of life. It's just a chutney, one small chutney there. The main course, rice, everything, sense gratification, devotion is a little bit, maybe a little more, maybe dal, more than chutney, dal. But there are many other chutney. There is sweet. There is other sabzis, and there is some drinks, some all kind of condiments, whatever, savories. So that kind of Kanishta Adhikari who is thinking that um, this chutney devotee, he will sometimes criticize those who criticize materialists. So you see, going on, because the Kanishta Adhikari is ignorant of the higher realms of devotional service and unlimited transcendental bliss of Krishna consciousness, he sees devotional service merely as a religious aspect of life, but thinks that life has many enjoyable and worthwhile non-devotional aspects. Therefore, he becomes angry when second-class devotees who are experiencing that Krishna is everything criticize the non-devotees. Madhvacharya says that such a person, because of his rudimentary faith in Krishna, is considered a devotee, but he is bhakta adhama, a devotee on the lowest standard. If such materialistic devotees follow the rules and regulations of deity worship, they will gradually be elevated to a higher standard and eventually become pure devotees of the Lord, unless they commit offenses against other devotees, in which case their advancement will be checked. So, I think you get the idea. A lot can be so, all right. I think I will stop it here and see and answer any questions or comments relevant. So, there's a question. Are atheists better than blind believers? No, not at all. Even if one is blind believer, he is better than an atheist who denies God. But the blind believer is not a very high grade devotee. He should reinforce his belief with Vedic knowledge, Krishna Sambandha Vijnana. We have to, Krishna Sambandha Jnana, we have to cultivate. That's why the books have to be read. You should not remain. Prabhupada said that devotion and philosophy both should be there. Devotion without philosophy will become sentimentalism. Philosophy without devotion becomes just speculation. So, devotional philosophy, Bhakti Vedanta, not just Bhakti without Vedanta. What is that? Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharatra Vidhim Vina Aikantiki Harer Bhakti Utpataya Eva Kalpate. Only Bhakti, whether it is not based in scripture, scriptural foundation, that will be a disturbance of society, such sentimentalism. So, blind belief is better than no belief at all, atheist, but it is not a stable situation because I am blind in my belief, I may also give up my belief because I am blind. Some reversal in my life may change my conviction. I may be shaken. So that's not a very stable situation. So that blind belief is at least good. At least one is accepting, due to some piety, he is accepting the supremacy of Krishna. Now he has to reinforce that with knowledge. Then he'll become perfect. What do you mean by submission to untruth? You had said earlier that Prabodhananda Saraswati had to said to bow down and praise the person and then cutting his attachment. So how to preach? Good question. So um, the point in that um, statement is that one can bow down, one can be all of that, but he's not submitting to untruth. He's not praising that, oh, whatever you're doing is correct. No, no, no. He's making him hear and then telling him straight. Sakalmeva vihaya durat. Chaitanya Chandra Kurune, Chaitanya Chandra Charane Kurtanuragam. He will get to that point. He will immediately tell that also. So this can all happen in the same conversation. Sometimes devotees are stuck in the first two lines. Dante Trinaya Dante Nidhaya Tranakam Padayor Nipatya Kritvacha Kakushatam Aham Bravimi. Devotees get stuck in those two lines. Hey Sadhava, that also they are stuck. Sakalameva Vihaya Dura, they never come to this point. So it can all happen in the same conversation. Like, there's perfect video of Prabhupada where he came on the news channel and then the news reporter was asking, what is your movement? What is the Hare Krishna movement? He said simply, um, uh, a human being who is not, um, 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 who does not have anything more than eating, sleeping, mating, defending, he's an animal. So we are trying to introduce Krishna consciousness in this human society. So he straight away said, it's animal society. If you are interested in nothing more than eating, sleeping, mating, defending, there's no better than animals. That's how we should preach. But he said it in a nice way, not like with a frown on his face, just nicely, just as a matter of factly. He just said it. Just like that. So this Dante Nidhaya Tranakam, this has to be done, yes. Sometimes this has to be employed. But the thing is, it's not submission to untruth. But if I say that how this principle has to be applied, we have to learn from the acharyas, from our guru. If we get stuck in the first two lines of praising and praising and praising, no, one day we'll make him a devotee, one day we'll make him a praise only first. No, we can praise, but also we have to tell the point gently in a way that we can understand why it is wrong, that his conception is wrong and what is the right thing. We can preach in a gentle tone. We can preach, and if that even gentle tone kind of makes him leave us, it's fine. We have to responsibly handle the conversation, but at the same time, responsibility means our real responsibility is to convey the truth to him. So we can always say it in a nice way. Yeah. But we should say it. How we say it, how we employ it, that's another thing. But we should say it. Don't wait for some opportune moment when you can. Hardly we see the opportune moments come. So sometimes people say, I made a video about Gaur Gopal talking nonsense every time. So many people argue in the comment section saying, oh, but so many devotees came because of him. Yes, they were, that kind of people who were not interested in Krishna, but they saw him and then eventually they purchased books and became devotees. My argument for that would be, okay, after becoming devotee, you still support that? What he's speaking is right? If you really read Prabhupada's books, would you find what he's speaking is right? You will have an ick. You'll be so irritated by such speech. Nonsense. That is the effect of reading Prabhupada's books. But if I'm not feeling that, I have not probably read Prabhupada's books. And if I have read Prabhupada's books and I think it's okay, that means I have not become a good quality devotee. So his preaching is making devotees who support such a thing because, I'm bringing people somehow or other. So what somehow or other? Where is he preaching? What is that kind of preaching? Nonsense. The real preaching is because of Prabhupada's books. And we can straight, I mean, Prabhupada went to America. In the West, he preached straight. This fellow is preaching in India and preaching to the Indians. And he's like beating around the bush and talking absolute rubbish. Now he's into some meditation coaching app or something. Nonsense meditation. All nonsense. These kind of things are going on. I'm quoting a BG 715 lecture given 3 years ago. I mean, we can do all of that. We can fall at their feet and everything, but we're not submitting to them. We are creating an opportunity to tell the real thing. It's a pretense. We are pretending. We cannot submit. In our mind, if we submit, finish. And he should be let known of the reality of the situation, of the truth of the matter. All right, so I think I'll stop it here. Thank you very much. जय श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि।